Games are boring, right? A controversial opinion, but one held by many who are tired of the same stereotypical protagonists, the same environments, and the same goal, to kill. That's all there is. Except, it's an opinion that Brie Code explains far, far more eloquently than I in her talk, Love Drugs, where she describes her cousin who hates games, or she just didn't know what games could be. And that is what she finds for most people that find games boring. But games are exciting. The landscape of games are completely changing. Indie development has opened up a broad new range of games that are completely changing the way we describe the medium. And engines are making it far easier and more accessible for games. This is No Man's Sky. We've already talked about this, so this is fine. Games are vast environments ready for exploration, ready for discovery. They are their own cultures, their own universes. They are completely untouched, and they're waiting for you to get involved. Games are pacifism. They are care. The game Undertale asks you, or rewards you, with a true ending if you talk to your enemies, if you form relationships with people. Games are also self-care. Right now, there is the self-care game jam on itch.io, which is quite often people making 10-second games to talk about their anxieties. This is Morning Makeup Madness. It's 10 seconds long, and you put on your makeup in the morning, and you end up with a face like that. And it's reflective. It is useful for people to make these games because making games is stressful. Work is stressful. Life is stressful. The current environment that we have means that in our day-to-day lives means that it's good to have a release, to have a medium that we can play on and feel a little more or a little less alone. Because games are on every device now. They're not just something that you have to sit at home and play on a computer. You can take them out with you. These 10-second microgames work extremely well on mobile phones, on iPads, on things that you can take, things like Nintendo Switches that are now bringing mediums together, such as portable and at home. They're not isolating anymore. For instance, We Throw Switches put on wonderful events every couple of months called Games Are For Everyone, where they bring beautiful and complex games and people together. But the most exciting thing about games is that games are not just games anymore. Games have some of the most creative minds in the industry. We do, and the ideas that we have are now transcending the medium that we can create. There is the obvious example of escape rooms. They are live games. They've become vastly popular recently because they are your own point-and-click adventure. You can go in, you can explore, you can find switches and clues and solve puzzles with an hour to escape a room. There are more literal senses, games being brought into live spaces. Mona Bozdog created a version of Dear Esther, but it was on an island. It was performed live, much like you'll see tomorrow night, which was fascinating in bringing a video game into a live space, into something that you could exist in, that would be real. But I'm from a tech side. I'm a tools programmer, so I'm much more interested in how games technology is influencing not just games. Virtual reality is now used in commercial methods, with McLaren using it to visualize their cars before making them, saving them tons of money. Virtual reality can also be used for prosthetics. Prosthetics are expensive to make, so quite often amputees will not be given prosthetics at first. Because they are not trusted with how to use them. Virtual reality helps teach people so that they can have an inexpensive way to learn how to use a prosthetic before they have it. What I find really interesting when we talk about games and interactivity is bringing that into performance art. A couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to be involved with the Northeast of North Festival. We put on a show called Forever Falling Nowhere, where we were doing interactive and real-time projection mapping onto people. I also created a small Connect-based game of sorts, or interactive piece, based on the idea of kaleidoscopes, where you could interact and move the kaleidoscope, you could be in the picture, you could see yourself. And it was really one of the most rewarding things I've done as a developer. I got to see people interacting and playing with something that I had made in a much more experimental method than I'd ever seen with controllers or people sitting in front of screens. It was far more intertwined. This is a game called Limb. It's about fitting in. And I originally didn't want to make games. I wanted to work in musical theatre. I wanted to be a performer. And people often laugh when I tell them that. When I decided I wanted to make games instead, they're like, musical theatre, that's quite a leap. And yes, in ways, it is a vastly different skill set, but I truly believe that they're not so far apart. Performance art and games can learn a lot from each other. Interactivity, such as Sleep No More performances, are extremely powerful, and games can learn from performance and how to get people engaged and really involved. And really, when we combine performance art and games, who knows where we can end up. Thank you.